This is the new GPD Pocket 4, an 8.8-inch modular, full-featured handheld AI PC powered by the new AMD Ryzen Ai 9 HX370 chipset. And recently on the channel, we took a look at this device running Windows. I actually haven't been able to put this thing down. I absolutely love it. But in this one, we're going to be taking a look at Linux gaming. More specifically, I've got Bazzite installed here, which is very similar to the operating system running on the Steam Deck, making it perfect for kind of a portable gaming machine. With the power of the AMD Ryzen Ai HX370, this thing is putting down some amazing performance. As you can see, it's a very small laptop. We do have a backlit keyboard here. Ergonomics are actually great. We've got that trackpad over on the right-hand side and our mouse buttons on the left-hand side. But one of my favorite things about the new Pocket 4 is actually the display here. It's an 8.8-inch 144Hz LTPS high refresh rate display, up to 500 nits of brightness, and it's got a resolution of 2.5K. It's a 16:10 aspect ratio, which is kind of the norm here for laptops and handhelds. It is a touch panel with up to 10 points of touch, but it also rotates 180 degrees, so you can basically turn this thing into a tablet, or you can set it up in TP mode if you want to. But overall, I think that GPD has done a great job with this. Very thin design for what we've got here. And again, I have made one video showing off Windows performance. If you want to check that out, I'll leave a link in the description. But I wanted to give you a quick refresher on the specs here. Like I mentioned, we've got that AMD Ryzen Ai 9 HX370. It's based on Zen 5, 12 cores, 24 threads. One of the main claim to fame for this is that new iGPU, the Radeon 890M, 16 CUs based on RDNA 3.5. The unit that I have here has 32 gigabytes of LPDDR5X running at 7500 megahertz, but I've actually gone into the BIOS and taken it up to 8000. 2280 M.2, that 144 Hz, 8.8-inch display, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, 45 watt-hour battery, 100 watt PD fast charging. I personally think that GPD has kind of knocked it out of the park with the Pocket 4. I've been really enjoying using it. And again, in this video, we've got Bazzite installed. Everything's been working here except for one little thing, and that's going to be TDP control from within Bazzite itself. Another thing I ran into was going into the BIOS and adjusting the TDP from there doesn't take effect. And I'm on an earlier version. This thing's up for pre-order right now. New BIOS should be coming that'll allow me to fully adjust the TDP on this unit properly up to 28 watts. And once we get that, we can take a look at some lower TDP gaming. But in this video, we're going to be taking a look at how this thing handles gaming the way it is right now. I wanted to move in a bit closer. With this GPD machine, HDMI is working. I can also get video over USB Type-C, but I am using HDMI right now connected to my game capture just to make it easier to see everything. Everything here has worked with this. I was pretty surprised. I figured audio, maybe Bluetooth or Wi-Fi wasn't going to work, one of those. But if we head into here, we've got full audio, Bluetooth. I'm connected to Wi-Fi right now. From our performance overlay, we can set this up, but obviously we've got a lot of cores to kind of cover, so it's going to take up a lot of the screen over here if we're running it like 1080 or 1200p, given that the screen is 16:10. So I'm going to leave it right here for now. I will bring it up a bit bigger when we get into gameplay. I've disabled the frame rate, and over my game capture, I'm at 120 right now, but it will do up to 144. The highest refresh rate the screen on the GPD will do. Allow tearing, half rate shading. We do have access to system-wide FSR like we would on the Steam Deck, but there was one thing I just couldn't get working inside of Bazzite OS, and that's TDP control using Handheld daemon. Usually with a handheld running something like the Z1 Extreme, we've got TDP control directly from here, but with this HX370, it's just not showing up no matter what scheduler I'm using. And I'm sure it just has to do with the fact that I'm on an HX370 APU, and handheld daemon control may not have the ability to adjust that one just yet. But we can go in, set it up, all the shortcuts we need. And if I open up my settings here, we can check out the system. AMD Ryzen Ai 9 HX370, up to 4.367 gigahertz, 12 cores, 24 threads. This is the 32 gig model, and I've got 8 gigs dedicated to that Radeon 890M iGPU. And I'm pretty impressed with the performance right now, especially given the fact that this operating system is not optimized for the HX370, let alone the device we're on. But again, everything's been working pretty decently on this machine. And with that, I wanted to get into some gameplay here and show you exactly what we could do with this. We're going to do Cyberpunk 2077 up front. think my shaders are already loaded. Yeah. Okay, so with this one, we're at 1080p because connected to my game capture, I just can't really capture 1200p very well, but we're at medium settings with FSR set to balanced. No frame generation is being used right now, and you can see up in the top left-hand corner with our performance overlay, we're in the mid-70s most of the time with this. And there's a little more that we could get out of this. Of course, we could use frame generation. That's really going to up it over 90 FPS on average, but I wanted to leave it off for this one. And at medium 1080, we're seeing amazing performance out of Cyberpunk 2077 on the HX 370. Now, once we get proper TDP control with this device, I'd say going down to 15 to 17 watts, at 900p, we could probably see around the same kind of performance here. We're at 28 right now at 1080. The next one I wanted to test was Myth Wukong, and we did have to use frame gen here. There's kind of no way around it with this game unless you go down to 720p and take that resolution scale way down with FSR or TSR. But right now, at low, frame gen on, we're seeing an average of around 82 FPS. Moving over to Doom Eternal, I kind of didn't know what to expect with this, but at 1080p medium settings, we're getting an average of 90 FPS out of this game. And I do have the in-game overlay in the top right-hand corner. You can see we're not using any kind of resolution scale with this, so we're at 100% at 1080p. I personally love the fact that we're able to run this on a handheld so well, and with all of the technologies built in with this PlayStation 4 port over to PC, I think they've done a pretty good job because on these chipsets, 1080 medium, albeit we are using frame gen, we see averages across the board in the high 80s on the HX 370. And I'll tell you, on the Ryzen Z1 Extreme, I've played this game quite a bit. Maxed out 28 to 30 watts, we're getting an average of around 78. So there is a big jump over to this Radeon 890M iGPU. Spider-Man Remastered is another one I wanted to test out, and I'm not exactly sure if this game was recently updated to help out with iGPU performance, but with most of the iGPUs I've been testing and this game, since launch, I mean, performance has almost doubled on most of those. This is no different. We're at 1080 high with IGTI scaling set to balanced. Personally, I do find that it looks a little better and performs much better than FSR with this game in Linux. And the final game I wanted to test here was God of War Ragnarok, 1080 low with frame gen on. And one thing I noticed here was up in the top left-hand corner, you can see we're not pulling 28 watts with this. We're actually pulling 25. So it did lower just a bit. And, you know, I've kind of noticed this with the HX 370. It's a very well optimized system. Even going over to an operating system like Linux, we're seeing some pretty decent efficiency. And again, a lot of this stuff really isn't optimized for this chipset. So it's only a matter of time. We will see better performance out of the 370 in Linux in the future. As it sits right now with the Pocket 4, the performance I'm seeing here is awesome. But again, we are at a 28 watt TDP, which isn't going to give us that much battery life, given that we've got a 45 watt hour battery in this unit. As soon as I get that BIOS update and I'm able to really take this down, I think 15, 17 watt testing is definitely something we need to do. And I was able to do that inside of Windows. So again, if you want to check that video out, I'll leave a link in the description. Even at those lower wattages in Windows, playing kind of the same games here, we're seeing some amazing performance. So I think a lot of that might transfer over to an operating system like Bazzite with the Ryzen Ai HX 370. I'm still working on my full review for this thing, so keep an eye on the channel. But if you're interested in learning a little more about the GPD Pocket 4, I will leave some links in the description. They're going to be running an Indiegogo on this. They've got a few storage and RAM variants of this thing over there. But if there's anything else you want to see running on the Pocket 4, just let me know in the comments below. And like always, thanks for watching.